theatre as an art form, but also theatre as an application. Use the power of theatre to create change.
So, if you were born with the ability to change someone's perspective or emotions, never waste that gift. It's the power, the ability to influence. Hello and welcome to Rabbi Rashi Foundation. Nandini Rao is the founder and leader at Unscripted.nl and an influential volunteer at Yours Truly Theatre. She's also a communication and a branding expert. नंदिनी आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Okay, to start with Nandini ji, how did it all start? From being an educator to an entrepreneur and a social service leader. Also tell us about brand Nandini Rao and your different ventures. Over to you.
Well, I think there's no single point where the journey begins. I think it's a lot of different small milestones which add up, and I think the journey for me continues. So it's not that it has ended or any destination has been met. But I think how it started it was got to do with the fact that I was always interested in something more creative. And during my high school, I was looking at what were my options, and then I got very excited about something like advertising. So I joined fine arts. While most of the people had not heard what fine arts was. If I say fine arts, they would think I'm saying finance, and I'm like, no, it's fine arts. So they would be like, okay, so you're going to be you'll be a school art teacher, or you'll be teaching painting. So I said, yes, technically, yes, but there's a lot more to it than only one aspect of it. And I think being in an art college, I think probably is very influential, especially at that age, where your ideas are really constructed about the world around you. And I think from then I also discovered theatre, and that's really where the journey began. Once I discovered theatre, I was like, this is my medium. While I really love visual arts, especially painting, sometimes I feel I'm a bit impatient to just be with the canvas for too long. But theatre is like a bigger canvas with a lot of people in it, lot many integrated arts, and it's dynamic, so and spontaneous. So it's like this is it. This is my home. And of course, later when I look back, I think it was not a surprise that theatre and arts was my home, because my grandfather is a writer. I come from a family called Prabhat, which is one of the oldest art institution from Bangalore, and it's been 3 to 4 generations. Like this is the fourth generation of artists, dancers, philosophers, writers from my own family. So I think if I look back in hindsight, yeah, it seems so obvious, but sometimes what is obvious is not very obvious until you discover it. So that's how I really discovered theatre. It really liberated me, because stage really is a space where you can be yourself. You can be anybody else you want to be, and the dynamism of it's amazing. So I love direction. I mean, while I know a lot of people, when they think of theatre, they're like, oh, you want to be an actor, but I think my first love is direction. So while I love being on stage, entertaining, and doing a lot of stuff on stage all the time, my true love is in direction.
I absolutely love this, that you can be just anyone you want to be on the stage, and you will be judged perfectly. This is totally beautiful, Nandini. Okay, Nandini, so I'm sure you would have faced many challenges, obstacles. The journey wouldn't have been easy for sure, especially being an entrepreneur. So let's hear how you fought it and what all you faced.
Well, I think one of the challenges which was there for me, and I think is true even for many youngsters who are trying to decide about their career in arts, is that when you're looking at arts, I think the idea of what is the financial sustainability is always a question, and not just in India but internationally. As an artist, how do you survive? How do you make it sustainable? Of course, there are ways you can make it happen, but is it sustainable? I think that's the big question. So I started off my career at advertising, and then I was of course working within the corporate sector for 15, 18 years. Along with that, I was able to use weekend and every other minute I got in my life to really build up the theatre group. So my theatre group is called Yours Truly Theatre. It was co-founded by me. And then from around 2013 onwards, I've been a single leader for the organization, but I have had fantastic team who have been supporting me throughout. Um, but again, it's the idea that okay, it's a weekend, you can pursue it as a passion, but what about bringing it into a mainstream? Where can you do, you know, art and just survive and not have any other additional income or take up other freelance projects? So I think it is about balancing it out. Of course, a lot of people are once you experience arts, it's liberating. It is so empowering that you want to do it all the time. But I think it's about finding that meaningful balance and slowly uh, working on your skill, working on riyaz. It's a lot of riyaz. While initial excitement can be a, a lot of high, but you realize that if you really want to be good at it, of course, it requires a lot of riyaz. Keep doing it, getting to learn as much as possible. Of course, then there's a point when you do the crossover, right? For me, the crossover was around 2014 when I decided to quit my full time corporate job. And before that, also, I've been able to do quite a few gigs with corporates and other organizations. But around 2014, I said, okay, this is it. I think this is where I take my leap of faith. And yeah, I started an organization called Life Unscripted, basically with the idea that life would be very boring. It was if you knew what's going to happen today and tomorrow. So I think the excitement of life is that it's unscripted, and we can script it or re-script it, and that's how the name Life Unscripted kind of evolved. And from then on, we have been, of course, been able to focus full time to work with many different corporates. Now, in last 8 years, we have at least around more than 85 plus clients, both in India and internationally. We've been able to work and offer theatre as an intervention for two specific folds. One is where we look at awareness programs using theatre, whether it is HR topics, whether it's diversity inclusion. We've been doing a lot of work on POSH policy, which is anti-sexual harassment at workplace. We've been able to do a lot of work on values of the organization and how do we discuss culture with employees, with managers, with leaders? Because these are such abstract topics. You can't do a PPT with it. You can't do a training with it. These are all very human topics, which is very critical in an organization. So I think theater comes somewhere here to uh, look at uh, look at these very human concepts and which can be communicated in a way that people can remember it for a long time.
So somewhere on your websites, I read that uh, you are doing theater for corporates, and it's in a form of training.
As I kept doing a lot of theater, I realized, and since I was also working within a corporate setup, I could see the disparity of it, plus also how much of theater could be applicable within the organization. And of course, I don't think I'm the first one to do it. I think there have been lot of international groups, a lot of international trainers around the world who have been using theater within organization. I think our experience of applying theater, I think that's where we look at theater as an art form, but also theater as an application. Use the power of theater to create change. We have, through Australia, we have been working with a lot of NGOs. We've been working in rural parts of Karnataka. We have been working with educational institution, and through that we have been building that idea of how do we use theater to not just communicate but also train. And I think theater has fantastic experiential learning power, which probably a lot of digital mediums sometimes lack. So I think that's how it kind of started. But I think over years, I think it has evolved a lot. And I think the work we do today is very sophisticated and matured, I would say. So we've been able to use, let's say, theater-based training or theater-based learning. These are few words which are used often within the learning and development space. That means whether it's a leadership program, whether it's a manager program, whether it is about communication program, how do you get leaders to do better storytelling? How do you get leaders to have empathy? How do you get managers to be able to do feedback? And you do it in a way where you also listen, because most of the time, all the learning is about what can you do, what can you say. But I think a big part of what theater can do is actually help people to say, forget what I have to say, but can I listen? Can I listen to my employees? Can I listen to my customers? Can I listen to my stakeholders? And stop speaking non-stop. Probably that's not necessary, but so I think things like empathy, listening skills, many of these very forgotten sometimes ideas, or like in theater we call it like pregnant pause. That means a pause before you make a very big statement or a very big dialogue or a very important dialogue in the play. That's called pregnant pause, and I think those pauses are so important. And I rarely hear within the corporate sector anybody pausing at all. So I think a lot of these ideas are probably very kind of very integral and can be adds a huge value to organizations.
So, as rightly mentioned by you, that there are many groups, international groups, who are doing this. So, tell us about the USPs and the uniqueness of your two brands.
Okay, absolutely. I think what I can say is I think the organizations who have worked with us over a period of time also have challenged us back. So they are like, "Hey, Nandini, last year we did this. Can we do this now? Can we bring in theater into this training session? Can we bring in theater into communicating this aspect?" So I think it has been a mutual journey. So I really want to thank all my clients who have always not just kind of taken theater as an extracurricular activity, or consider it as only something which has to be done during an annual function, annual events, but they're able to see the power of theater within the real core business, and they can see how it can impact. So I think it's been a mutual symbiosis development. But I think what theater brings in is absolutely a human connection, and a connection which you kind of tend to remember for a long time. Second aspect is that the kind of approach we have in theater is also being very, very aware that our audience is extremely learned, experienced, and very matured. So then, hence, our communication with them, or what the theater we are doing, which is mostly interactive theater, where we bring them as a very important part of the co-creation of the performance. So none of our performances are where we go and tell them what they should be doing in their life, or what wrong they are doing, but it's mostly a dialogue to understand where they are coming from, what have been the challenges, where do we go forward from here. The third aspect is the fact that this kind of theater opens up a vicarious learning. That means they're actually learning from each other, from what the other person said, the other leader said. They're learning from each other, which is again is something which is rare. And I think post COVID it's become a lot more critical. In fact, I think that we come together and also listen to each other's experiences, and learn from each other. Finally, I think theater can bring in all kind of dynamism with visuals, music, comedy, entertainment, which people tend to remember for a long time. So a lot of performances which we do, the kind of while the background of it is coming from absolute theoretical background, people tend to take the vocabulary back home after our show. So after 3 years, we meet them, they'll remember us and say, "Oh yeah, you guys were the ones who were talking about the 5 E's of personalities," or they just remember that because you can. So, for example, if you're talking about what are the different working styles, so each actor becomes explore, another actor becomes examine. So you're kind of personalizing it from an actor's perspective. So I think the recall factor and impact is for long and deep, I would say.
How are you encouraging women empowerment?
Mm-hmm.
Let us know that.
Okay, let me tell you a story. So what happened was we were invited at organization called Volvo, and they were launching their diversity inclusion program, and we went and performed, and our show was a big hit, and it was really successful. All audience, including the managing director, everyone came and told us a very good job. Uh, but I think what happened was when the performance was going on, I was at the backside after the interaction, and I was watching my actors on stage, and I realized that we hardly had women on stage. And I think that night, while the show, I mean, from a performance perspective and the impact it had to create, everyone was very happy with it, but I was the only one who was extremely unhappy. So I think that hit home for me that I don't think we can go and talk about these topics unless we are practicing it back home. So I have no right to go out and tell any organization what they should be doing with diversity inclusion or women in the center stage unless it happens within our firm. So I had to take step back, quite a few steps back, to really look at how was our system, why was it that while almost when we start a basic workshop, we have almost 50-60% of women joining in. So it's a pyramid, but as you go along, 2 years later, 3 years later, we hardly have women continuing theater. So, and again, that is not unique to us, but again, it's very similar to what happens in many organizations where you have a lot of people at the beginners level, but sustaining is difficult. Which is very funny. Which is very funny because our international counterparts have they struggle to get men into theater. At least some of them I work with, they always say that, wow, you guys have so many boys, but back home for them, they always have a lot of women and very less men pursuing theater in a specific, not all. I'm not generalizing at all, in a certain section. So, but I think from then on, we have been able to change a lot of internal processes, look at issues which have been which is the reason women are not able to continue, and also why they don't take up the, even when it's given to them in a platter, why are they not taking it up? So what does it require? And of course, it requires a very different understanding of how to work with women. For me, it has also been a huge learning experience because till 2013, I always I've always been like, okay, just do it, do it. I never saw. I think there's a typical thing people say, I don't see gender, but that's not true. We all see gender, but somewhere our own biases are so strong. So I think I was also a victim of my own bias, where I thought if I can do it, then so can any other girl can do it. So I didn't see why it required a different approach. For me, that was the bias I was holding on to. But it broke in 2013-14. It broke. In fact, after the Nirbhaya case, I think we started looking at. Everyone said, "Okay, hey, this happened. Now, why don't you guys do? You do theater. It's so powerful. You should do something about it." And I felt, no, I can't immediately respond to it or react to it in a jiffy, because I don't think I know about it enough. And then we were very lucky to have a lot of international mentors coming over and doing a lot of workshops on gender with our whole theater group, slowly building awareness of what does the gender mean? What does it mean to me? How is it reflecting in my personal life, in my professional life, in our theater space? How is it getting reflected? So we took a lot of time to process it. And then of course, over a period of time, we've been able to do a lot of performances based on this topic. So one performance is called Equal But Not the Same. That means the equal opportunity is still true, but it cannot be the same. You cannot expect women to behave the same way as men do, or stay as long as men do, or respond in the same way men do. So I think while we are looking at equal opportunity, it also is important that to make it sustainable, we don't expect the same behavioral patterns. And I think it's important to make that sustainable. And I'm happy and proud that now we have very strong women leaders both in my theatre group and in our consulting company, really leading the way. So now when I look back, when all these girls are, completely, I mean, so much more, I would say, gracefully take on the role, I think it is absolutely heartwarming.
And nothing is complete without women, and that is what she's trying to say. Okay, Nandini, what exactly and what is the success mantra for you and have been over the years?
Okay. I think all my mantras which I've learned are like hardcore theater mantras. So I think one like the core mantra is the show must go on. So I think the idea that a show is more important than individuals, and then hence the objective is more important than what the designations are. Similarly, what our ambition or goal is, that is more important than where the credit should go. So I think theater really teaches you to ground yourself. Second mantra in theater we use is about no no character is small. You have only small actors. That means no role is really small. It's only your understanding of it, or your biases or constraints, which you say, oh, that work is not important, or that's not such a glamorous project, or it's not important. But I think all roles are really critical. It's just whether you're working with small actors or actors who have big hearts. So I think that's one. Third is, I think, in theater we say that to be a good theater professional or a good actor, you need to be a good human being, and I think that applies probably in all spectrum of life. I think the power of reflection which theater brings in is something which is been a mantra, that you need to step back, you need to pause, you need to look back, you need that time for reflection, and it can't be just a chase. So I think these are some of it, but if you leave me, I'll go on for like 3 days with all the ways how some of these basic theater ideas are so applicable in life, and in all kind of organizations.
Okay, I want to know, what is one message you want to put across to brands and the society out there?
Okay, I think one message or request I could probably make in this forum is that, um, even if you have not experienced the power of it, do give it a chance, because it's not just our organization, but I think there is a fantastic amount of work happening from art industry, which can be really applied, and not just consider art as an extracurricular in school, or consider it only for annual days within the corporate sector. But I think give chance to alternate ways of training, alternate ways of looking, and you will be surprised with the kind of results you will receive within. Even in sector of mental health, I think art for therapy is something which is uh, becoming extremely relevant in today's world. So I would say, don't shut it down. I think in my TED talk also, I talk about the fact that sometimes art is intimidating because we don't understand it. And art doesn't need to be understood, art needs to be experienced. So give yourself a chance to experience art in any way, and give it a platform, give it an opportunity, and it can do a lot more back for you than you would have ever imagined.
Absolutely wonderful. Art and acting is in everything but the words. So, to know more, get in touch with Nandini Rao. Her details and her numbers are available on the feed and on the video as well. Nandini, आपका बहुत बहुत थैंक्स है कि आप आए.
धन्यवाद.